Namaste. Uh, Today I'll be talking about involving local community for safe, affordable, sustainable water for all using groundwater resources. A case study in Sonamling Tibetan Settlement, Ladakh, India. The theme of World Water Day this year is groundwater making the invisible visible. And I think this presentation also coincides with that theme. Now, before I start my presentation, I'll just like to brief you about the Sonamling Tibetan settlement, which is located almost on the borders of India and Tibet in the northwestern Indian Himalayas. And it consists of about 3,800 Tibetans settled in different parts of Ladakh, Toglamsar, Neoma, Somdo, Hanle, and all these Tibetans, nomad, fled Tibet, which was an independent country till 1959, and before the Chinese invaded them and forced them to migrate to India, along with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The Sonamling Tibetan settlement were mainly nomads and agriculturalists. So their main aim was to rear these sheep, which is famous for pashmina cloth and a very good source of meat and also milk. Ladakh and Changthang area in Tibet is a high altitude cold mountain desert. And earlier studies had showed that there was no groundwater available in that region. Until late 90s, surface water was only solution to provide drinking water. Earlier days, spring sources were used, but later rivers, streams were all used to collect water, pump it to the nearest town or village, and from there distribute it to low-lying regions. So this is River Indus, and on the banks of which I'm standing. The problem with these surface water sources was, in majority of the time, the water was not usable. Why? Because it froze in winters, as we can see here, and in majority of them, in winters it is all frozen, and in summers, the melting of snow cause a lot of silt, as we can see here. So in some parts of the year, this river Zanskar will be silted, and in other times the Indus River is silted, and this is clear. But we see that most of the time the river water was not usable due to freezing and silting in summers. So in 1996, 97, exploration for groundwater was done, and for the first time, drilling rigs which were capable of actually drilling in these mountain regions was set up. Possibility of developing groundwater resources increased. So the cold mountain desert, which was considered to be a cold mountain desert, and was no availability of groundwater was felt. But with the advent of drilling technology, we had groundwater almost in all the different geological locations which we have. The source for this groundwater was the snow-clad peaks, which had paleo channels, and from there, the groundwater movement took place, and it was made available to almost all the regions. So this is a place, Sumdo, at Sumdo, a Tibetan school on the borders of India and Tibet, and we have sustainable source of water by exploring and developing groundwater resources. And this is community celebrating the success of the hand pump installed in their community in camp number 6 at Tagling. So the Tibetans who had migrated from from Tibet got continuous supply of water 24 into 7 by exploring groundwater resources. And this was not only restricted to the Tibetan community, but later the mechanism was adopted by civil population and Indian Army to get drinking water supply in almost all the regions which were considered to be devoid of it earlier. So groundwater, the invisible resource, was made visible by drilling and exploring it scientifically in different parts of the high altitude cold mountain deserts of Ladakh. And it provided sustainable source of drinking water to the entire region. This project was funded by WaterAid and Health Ministry of Tibetan Government in Exile. So both of these worked together, and we were able to provide drinking water to almost all the habitants, 3,800 Tibetans who migrated from Tibet, settled in different parts of Ladakh, and we were able to provide drinking water solutions in 1997-98. Since then, we have the entire community getting 24 hours water, because at that time in late 90s, till late 90s, there was no electricity. So hand pump was the only solution. But with passage of time, solar pumps came in. Here we see solar pumps being installed, and then river water was used for agriculture was used to meet agriculture requirement, and then but then again the silt caused problems. The solar pumps would pump the water, but the silt would get accumulated in the pipes. So again, groundwater became a viable solution. Using the solar pumps, and agricultural production has really increased using groundwater resources. And not only for drinking, but we see that groundwater was effectively used for animals, and also these children getting water for drinking, not only for drinking, but they have a pipe connected to their fields. They pump water, and that is how the groundwater is actually contributing to solutions not only for drinking, but also for meeting agricultural requirements in the villages, in remote areas. So various theories and various research papers I published on this, and the most important was the conceptual model to explain occurrence and movement of groundwater resources in entire Himalayas, and how groundwater moves, how the invincible resource has the power to actually change the economy and the socio-economic status of the water balance in the villages, in remote areas of Himalayas. because most of the streams are flowing downstreams and most of the villages are located up. Initially, they were self-sufficient, and as they were able to cater to the water requirements from spring sources. But as the population increased, uh, water consumption using also increased. Not only that, the spring sources uh, became less in discharge, and they were not taken much care of. Water supply schemes taken initiated by the government, the sewerage system, the flush toilets, all led to increased lifestyle where water was needed in a very large consumptions. So dry toilets were replaced by flush toilets, which also require a lot of water, and things happened in such a way that spring sources were not longer sufficient to meet the water requirement of the villages, and hence groundwater gradually paved way for finding sustainable solutions. Surface water resources were becoming very costly because transportation involved in getting water from the streams or rivers to the townships was very high. So we found that groundwater, being an invincible resource, became lifeline for providing sustainable water resources and economical water solutions in the entire Himalayan region, not only for army, but civil population, and also the villages benefited from this resource. So we see that groundwater, in spite of the fact that groundwater has provided solutions for drinking and meeting agricultural requirement, still it is not properly understood. There are not much research papers on groundwater, and still the resource is being considered to be fluctuating resource, and in the absence of any scientific good data, people, in spite of the fact that they have been using it for the last 25 years effectively, and we have seen that none of the borewells drilled by us, there is even 1 centimeter or drawdown, or there has been decrease in the discharge. So groundwater is a very important resource, and I think the World Water Day, which is being celebrated on 22nd March, is an eye-opener to this resource. And I wish that groundwater gets all its due credit, and it has helped the mountain communities in Himalayas to live happily in almost all the seasons. Earlier, this resource, when it was not tapped, there were freezing problems, silting problems, decrease in discharge, or fluctuating in the resource. But groundwater has provided sustainable, economical, safe water solutions for all. So with this, I would like to thank the World Water Forum for inviting me to this international 9th World Water Forum at Dakar. And I wish all the people in Senegal that they enjoy the groundwater resource to the full. It's a beautiful place, I have heard, and I wish all the people in Senegal safe water solutions in coming days, economical also. Thank you very much.